Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Memoria from Thirdway Industries. Designer Giovanni Meroni has done tons of different decks over the years, with series that go back several years at this point. All of those decks feature beautiful custom artwork throughout, but maybe the thing that exemplifies his work the most to me are the stories behind the decks. All of them have rich and deep lore, often inspired by classic mythology like Greek and Roman, but other times stories from Gio's own mind, mythology of his own creation. And Memoria features some of the most unique stories that I've ever seen. See, Memoria is intended as a bit of an introspective story. It's one in which you are actually the protagonist, and the cards are meant to invoke your own memories. It does this by using the story of a nameless hero who's in search of his own lost memories, and then he encounters them as he journeys through life or through the deck. Now, more on that story as we get to the courts and the jokers of the deck, but let's check out these decks as we go through. There's two different versions of the deck. We have the blue Enthropia deck here and the red Ancestrale. Beautiful designs. We'll look at both of them in turn, but let's start out with the Entropia deck. Now, this tuck case that you see here was actually done by Boschero and Newton. That's the first time that Italian Giovanni Meroni has worked with the Italian tuck maker, and I'm incredibly happy to see that. Boschero and Newton does some of the best tuck work in the world. They've done decks for Yoku and others before, and really excited to see them pair up with Giovanni for this deck. And you can see their impeccable work on full display on this one. It's a bright blue tuck box, but really nice subtle embossing and two colors of foil that are implied perfectly on this one. You get the silver and the gold. The design that you see here is sort of an inspiration of the chaos of the human mind that we're going to explore as we go through the deck. You have the staircases running up the sides, the mirrors or the shattered mirrors here representing reflections of your memory, and even the shattered or forgotten memories of the past. Another large staircase up the middle here leading to the center of your mind, and even a maze image here at the top, maybe representing some of those secrets that you kept hidden away in your mind. Really beautiful design on this one. Lots of small symbols throughout, like the eye or even the little droplet of blood, things that you'll see that appear on a lot of Giovanni's decks. But just a really nicely done job, and that embossing and foiling, absolutely perfect. You get the name of the deck just here on the side, so you get Memoria on one side and Enthropia on the other. Add copy on the bottom mentions, of course, Giovanni as well as Boschero and Newton and Cardamundi, who printed the cards. Top just has the four suits there, the four suit pips. You'll see that on a lot of the Thirdway decks with that checkerboard gold and silver pattern. And the back has a foiled and embossed version of the back design of the cards, which we'll look more at in a second. So you open it up, more of that maze imagery, the swirling maze with the locked secret there in the center, little emblems here on the inner flaps, and some nice interior printing on this one. So it's not foiled, but you do get that ink printing, and really impressive. You can see just a peek of it there. So the maze image at the top, and just a small peek at a portrait of the goddess. She's a character we'll see several times through the deck, and an incredibly important one to the story. So remember her name, the goddess. So that is the tuck box, beautifully done. And like I said, so happy to see Giovanni working with Boschero and Newton. Hope that continues in the future. But let's take a look at the cards, and we'll start with the back design. And here it is. So these are done by Cardamundi with their fantastic foiling on this one. So cold foiling the entire back of the card. So it's done with a flood foiling, basically giving an entire base layer of this blue foil, and then the printing on top to give you the colors that you see here. And it's a really startling and super bright effect. You can see as I tilt in the light, some angles it becomes a little bit muddled and harder to see, but other angles absolutely glows with a fantastic color. I will say that blue that you see here comes a little bit more purple, especially when you hold it up to the rest of the box. So not a perfect match for the tuck box, but still a really nice color overall. Would have liked to have seen it maybe match a little closer to the tuck box, but that's a small thing. The image here, again, is kind of bringing forward some of those symbols of the mind that we were looking at before. The chains this time representing some of the traps or closed off areas of your mind. You get the shattered mirror images, the staircases, and even the mazes here on the side. Beautiful texturing on this one. and really fantastic work with the foil. Finishes out with that purplish blue border all the way around the edge. So that's the back design, but now onto the cards. So all 4 aces kind of serve as power aces, I would say. So there's not one that really stands out above the others. I guess I would say the ace of spades maybe does a little bit. It has a very abstract view of a spade pip. You can kind of make it out here, almost looks like an upside down heart. But again, featuring a lot of that same symbolism that we've seen throughout the rest of the tuck cases. We're going through that. This is done in multiple colors of metallic inks. You can see the metallic, kind of that bluish silver, and the red in here, the gold for that ring in the middle. So lots of metallics used throughout this one. And then the other 3 aces really lean heavily on that shattered mirror imagery. So this is going to be a deck not just of memories, but also of lost memories throughout. And you can see that depicted through the shards of glass that are kind of scattered around each of the other 3 aces. So a lot more heavier use of the reds, of course, on the red cards. You can see the mixture of red and silver there, and then the silver and gold on the black cards. So there's your 4 aces. The number cards are all fully custom as well. So the pip style is going to be pretty familiar. You've seen something similar with a lot of the Thirdway decks, but the backdrop features both that maze image in the center and then the shattered mirror around the edge with that pip and index nice and readable in the corner. So to go through the number cards, you can see the custom patterning there, just kind of fitted in with that circular hypnotic design there in the middle, but really like the layout of the pips on these. So there's your spades. Now as you get into the red cards, we get a predominantly red background with the sort of hearts looking like they're coming out of negative space there almost. And then back to the blues, but now this time a little bit more gold as opposed to red for the clubs. And then the diamonds feature that red accented with gold. So there's your diamond pips. And then we get to the quartz, and the quartz are always going to be a bit of a highlight for any Thirdway Industries decks. So the quartz highlight that myriad of memories that you personally encounter as you sort of reconstruct your own life. And each one's meant to bring to mind a personal moment of some type. And they feature personifications of those different times in your own life. And so we'll talk through what some of those memories are as we go through the different cards. We start off here with the Jack of Spades, and this is the memory of an enemy. So everybody has an enemy, that person or trial that challenged you the most in your life. And so we see that one depicted beautifully on this super intricate card here. This one, a physical enemy with the sword, almost shattering your own opposition there. Very menacing and almost evil looking creature on this one, but beautifully illustrated. I love the detail that's done on this one. This one, you know, Giovanni has quartz that are much more intricate and stylized, and then others that use much thicker, bolder lines. I like when he uses this very intricate style, done beautifully on the Memoria deck. Then we move to the Queen of Spades. This is a memory of lost things, nostalgia, reminiscence of the past, and that pain of loss. And you can see that kind of symbolically represented by the tentacles kind of reaching up from your past and pulling you back towards those lost memories. Then the King of Spades is the memory of an inner demon, that kind of secret version of ourselves, and maybe that part that holds us back from bigger and better things. And this one has that intimidating mask on his head, almost hiding the true self depicted on this one. That's a very, very cool one. Then we go to the Jack of Hearts. The Jack of Hearts depicts the memory of hate, that all-encompassing fixation, very difficult to control. This one depicted as kind of a demon with a bloody sword that's dripping blood off onto the side. Very ominous one. And then the Queen of Hearts, we get another look at the goddess, a closer look here. The goddess is that thing in your life that everything revolves around the most. It's more than just a memory. This is probably the most powerful of the memories or the quartz in the deck. And like I said, we're gonna see her a few different times in the deck. So the goddess is another very interesting one. Maybe we all have that thing that we think about the most. Maybe it's playing cards, who knows? And then we get to the King of Hearts. This is the memory of sacrifice. an agony that's kind of tied to this one. So you can see he's kind of depicting the suicidal king. And this is that time when you've sacrificed maybe for a good cause of some sort. So this card kind of has two different sides to it. Of course, there's the agony and the pain, but then there's also that satisfaction of the cause that you were able to champion through your sacrifice. Then we go into the clubs, and you start off with the Jack of Clubs with the Memory of Protection. You can see the Guardian here with his shield, taking the arrows on its side. This is something of a memory of a time when somebody else protected you in some way. And so it evokes a couple of different feelings. Of course, gratitude for the person who protected you, but maybe a little bit of regret because that pain was intended for you and they took it instead. So kind of a dual meaning to this card. And you'll see that with a lot of the different cards in this deck, both maybe a positive and a negative emotion that's tied to a lot of them. All right, now turning to the Queen of Clubs is the Memory of Secrets. And those are the secrets that you hide from others, maybe even secrets that you hide from yourselves. So kind of a very wrapped up or shrouded in mystery on this one. And you can see the key there, almost symbolic of you dangling that key off to the side and out of sight. Next up is the King of Clubs with the Memory of Experience. So experience are those things that sort of teach us life lessons. And so this is the memory of a particular truth that you gained through your own mistake. Maybe you stumbled on something and you learned some valuable lesson out of it. And so this one's an old man with a lantern that's almost able to guide you through your future because of something that you've learned or you picked up in the past. And then we turn to the diamonds, the final three quartz. And first we start with the Memory of a Feast. This is literally what it sounds like, the memory of a particularly good meal. Of course, a lot of joy that's tied to that, but this card can also have kind of a negative side. Maybe it was a meal that you just absolutely gorged yourself on and you feel even a little bit of shame at how much you consumed in that meal. So kind of an interesting and whimsical little card. You can see the drink off there on the side. Of course, that feast can be accompanied with a hearty drink of some sort. Then we go to the Queen of Diamonds. This is a memory of joy. This is kind of a card of pure happiness, one of those happiest moments of your entire life, maybe the birth of a child or your wedding or something like that. But you can see the happy character there. This is one of those memories that you come back to all the time and want to relive. And then finally, the King of Diamonds, the Memory of Power, that time when you were absolutely on top of the game, but it carries with it that memory that power can be fleeting, power can be lost as well. So that's the final one of the cards with the King of Diamonds. But we are only halfway through the different memories because we have another deck, and this second deck features an entirely different set of core cards. So let's take a second to go over to the Ancestrale deck. This one has a lot of the same artwork on the tuck box, but this time done with a bright red tuck box, and the foil colors change here. So we see we have the kind of antique gold and then this sort of copper bronze color in here as well. Nice mixture to it, a much more subtle feel to this one. And I'm partial to red decks, so I like this one quite a bit. But much the same artwork on the sides. Of course, we have Ancestrale instead of Entropia on the side here, but a lot of the same artwork featured on this one, just that different color on this. Really nicely done. And for me, like I said, I prefer the red deck moderately to the blue deck, but can't really go too wrong with either one of them. The back design is the same, but of course recolored, and once again doesn't quite match with the brightness of the tuck box. This one kind of has a more of a red or almost maroon color to it. But I very much like the color of the cards, even though I wish they matched the tuck box a little bit better. But I think this is just a really beautiful, almost antique look. A bit of a, I don't know, kind of gives you that, I don't know, reminiscence vibe of some sort, almost like you're looking into the past. But really cool artwork on this one. Again, the same artwork that we saw on the Enthropia deck, just with the different colors on this one. You can see that nice, almost bronze looking color, I guess I would say, with that red on the sides. And then as you turn to the cards, most of the cards are the same. There's some very subtle color differences on these cards, but the aces and the numbers are, roughly speaking, the same as we looked at with Enthropia. So not going to see too many differences in these. I'll do a real quick flip through most of them. But this is not where the difference to the deck is. Now, we've talked about this being a lot the same, but as we get to the core cards, you'll see this features entirely different core cards. So start to finish, the core cards here are completely different from what we looked at with Enthropia. And so let's go through those core cards for Ancestrale, starting with the Jack of Spades. And remember, we're going to go through some of the different memories of your life. And the first one is a powerful one. This is the memory of fracture, a time of great change when your entire life was basically flipped upside down. You can see the character here with the mask shattering away and kind of bringing about a new start underneath. So this could be kind of a turning point in your life, a time where you encountered some sort of great change that made you into a totally different person. So that's the meaning here of the Jack of Spades. And then the Queen of Spades is the memory of sorrow. This will be one of the most profound griefs, maybe a death in your family or something like that, but one of those really powerful memories that you have, and one of the most painful in some ways, but can also kind of bring you back to a place of joy. And so you can see the tears of sadness represented there in the side, and that scythe there maybe kind of symbolizing that often this is tied to death of some sort. And then the King is the memory of egoism. This is kind of a self-serving decision maybe that you've made in your life, maybe at the expense of others. So it brought you quite a bit, but maybe at the expense of others. So it kind of has a demonic look on this one. This is a bit of a selfish card, but we all have those memories like that. Then we go to the hearts, starting with the Jack of Hearts, the memory of betrayal. And this could be some close friend, but one that turned on you, and it taught you to be more cautious in the future. So you can see that sort of guilty, sly look on the face of the memory of betrayal here, and the dagger kind of giving you shades of like Brutus and Caesar or something like that. But another really powerful memory that maybe you guys have. Next up, we get the Goddess appears again in this deck. The Goddess is going to be a bit of a recurring character throughout here. Again, the Goddess, that thing that your whole life revolves around. So much more powerful of a memory, appears in both decks, and we're not done with her yet. So more on the Goddess to come. Next up is the King of Hearts, the memory of confinement, a time when you felt trapped, maybe not physically, maybe mentally. And this one has some really interesting symbolism in this one, because a lot of times when you feel trapped, that freedom is right there at your fingertips, and you can see the key to escape just hovering above the hand here. All you have to do is sort of open your eyes, uncover your face so you can see that key and free yourself. And so, memory of confinement on the King of Hearts. Now we go on to the clubs, starting with the memory of dedication. This is that time when you achieved something great, but you've done it through your own persistence, your own discipline, maybe through training of some sort. And you can see here, almost looks like a training recruit of a soldier depicted here on this one, with the sword in his hand and that very proud look on his face. Then we come to the Queen of Clubs. This is the memory of innocence, a time when you were completely naive, completely pure, and maybe a lot more at ease, if you're honest with yourself. So thinking back maybe to times of your childhood or something like that. Very innocent looking character on here. The dove's kind of a symbol of innocence as well. Then we come to the King of Clubs, the memory of education. So skill of some sort that was learned with the help of education or a mentor or your own hard work. As you can see here, almost looking like a teacher or a wise old man here is the representation of the memory of education. And then finally, the diamonds, we kick off with the memory of opportunity, a bold chance of some type that you took, and usually a time when it worked out, because of course fortune favors the bold. And this one's sort of symbolized by the cornucopia of wealth and even symbols of gambling there on the side. And now comes the Queen of Diamonds. This is the memory of home. This is a really welcoming, familiar card. You can see kind of encompassing almost like a hug here. This maybe is your family or people that you remember from when you were young, but just one of those other areas that you can always come back to, kind of like the memory of joy. And finally is the King of Diamonds with the memory of strength. This is that time when maybe you felt completely invincible and you went out there and you held nothing back, kind of like a warrior going to battle. And that's what's depicted on this one. And that is the final court card for the Ancestrale deck. So really cool look through that, but we haven't even gotten into the story that surrounds those different memories. And that story is told in the final 8 cards that we haven't looked at yet. the true sort of center of the lore. It's told in the 8 jokers across the 2 different decks. And these are those, and we're going to get a chance to look at these beautiful cards. These all feature amazing illustrations that kind of take the shape of tarot cards. The one-way designs on these, beautiful, larger-than-life images. And these are some of the characters that you encounter on your journey through your own memory. So let's talk about some of these. Now, I mentioned that the main protagonist is you, and we get that depiction of that protagonist here on the first one of the jokers. This is the Forgetful. And so in the story, you find yourself traveling on this whole cycle of living, forgetting, and then reliving your own memories. And it's a path that's set forth by the second character that we encounter. That's this mysterious and magical witch here. And you encounter her basically on the base of a mountain, and the witch sends you on a travel up the mountain where you encounter dozens of different scenes, some of those memories that we were talking about as we went through the courts, and those bits and pieces of your life as you reconstruct your own memory. And of course, as you journey, you don't do it alone. You have some guides on the way. First of all, we see this is Intellect, that wise old leader who maybe helps you use your own intelligence to guide you on your path. And then we have Fortuna. Fortuna is a character we see on a lot of different Thirdway decks. And of course, Fortune can help nudge events in your favor, particularly if you're bold, because as we all know, Fortune favors the bold. And so we get to look at Fortuna and Intellect here as the first couple of guides along your path. And of course, we get a classic, the angel and the devil on your shoulder. So the angel kind of serving as your conscience, and then the devil whispering temptations in your ear as well. And so 2 other guides that you'll often see as little guides on your own path. But as you continue your journey, you reach the top of the mountain, and that's where you encounter the goddess. We've mentioned her so many times before. Well, let's find out a little bit more about her. At the top of the mountain, she is your biggest challenge, your own goddess. And this beautiful woman that you see depicted here represents, like I've said before, that thing that dominates your very existence. It can be good, it can be bad, but it's that thing that you would sacrifice everything in your life for. And in the story, that's exactly what you do. And you become her champion. You bind yourself to her, and that's what you see here on the final card. This is the Forgetful, the Seeker, who's now become the champion of the goddess and chained himself to her literally. You can see the chains depicted here. And of course, that dedication to a goddess can quickly become self-destructive as well. You can kind of put yourself in the story and imagine how that sort of obsession can be something both positive, but can also quickly turn negative. And that's what happens in this story, unfortunately. So this first phase of the story reaches this dramatic climax where the goddess causes you to spin into this spiral, a lack of self-control, and she casts you back to the base of the mountain where you meet that magical witch once again. You end up begging the witch to help you forget everything. And she does that. She wipes the slate clean and brings you back to your beginning with all of your memories completely shattered, completely gone, and you find yourself back at the beginning of the story. But when you get to the beginning of the story, it's not the end. Of course, it's just a cycle. And so your first wish is, hey, I've forgotten everything, help me remember. She asks, are you sure? And you say, yes, help me remember. And so she sends you back on that journey up the mountain where you know once again you're going to encounter your goddess, and hopefully this time you're a bit more ready to confront her with better results. And that's sort of the story of the cycle. It's a really just fascinating story that's told through the decks. If you want to find out more about the story, I recommend picking up the companion booklet that comes with this. This booklet actually also printed by Bashero and Newton. You can see that here on the back, done on a beautiful silver finish in this one. This is the full story from Giovanni. It's written with the help of Liz Romerl, who did some of the editing of the story as well. Did a great job on that. Features really beautiful artwork. You get a look at all of the different cards here, so you get a nice closer up look of them and a little blurb about each one of them, and gives you a more exhaustive look of the overall story. So this is a great add-on if you want to know more about the story of the deck than what I've told here. But anyway, that is the look at Memoria from Thirdway Industries. Definitely a bit of a longer review on the channel, but for me, it's just a story that really needed to be explored fully. I love the inspiration of this deck and the creativity of the story. This one was just a fascinating deck to me, and so hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. But anyway, I'll put a link down in the description if you want to check these out, if you want to pick up some of the decks or maybe even some of the booklets for yourself. That'll be down in the description. Can't recommend it highly enough. I think this is some of Giovanni's best work, and I'm a fan of all of his decks, so that's really saying something for me. But anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.